dollar bill, y'all. Cash moves everything around me. Clean, get the money. Dollar bill, y'all.
We're in San Francisco, California for WCW's second pay-per-view of the year 2000, SuperBrawl. Around 8,500 fans are inside the Cow Palace tonight, and the first thing we hear is Tony Schiavone saying, "How do you get better than this?" I can think of a few ways, my guy. On the subject of announcers, Bobby Heenan isn't here. We've got Mark Madden on the call, and we won't hear Bobby Heenan again on a WCW pay-per-view. Not off to the best start, and the first bell hasn't even rung yet. Our main event sees Big Sid Vicious defend the WCW Championship against Jeff Jarrett and Scott Hall in a triple threat match. We've also got the total package taking on Hulk Hogan, as well as Terry Funk and Ric Flair squaring off in a Texas death match. Before we get to any of that though, Mean Gene's outside the commissioner's office looking to grab a word with Kevin Nash, but he instead comes face to face with a whole load of tits. And the women are there as well. Jeff Jarrett says that after what he did to the commissioner on Thunder, Big Kev isn't here. Yeah, Jeff took Nash out with a guitar shot after he banned the Harris brothers from SuperBrawl. So, as acting commissioner, Double J's running the show tonight. He lifts the ban on Ron and Dawn, and he says they will be by his side in the main event tonight. Oh goody. Anyway, we're going to kick things off with the finals of the Cruiserweight title tournament as Lash LeRoux goes one-on-one with the artist formerly known as Prince Iakea. Our two finalists have made it through an 8-man tournament to get to this stage, and tonight we're going to crown a brand new Cruiserweight champion. The Y2Cajun makes his way down to the ring first before the artist saunters his way out accompanied by Paisley. She grabs the mic and thanks the crowd for supporting the artist's creative endeavours, while Mark Madden says Paisley should be showing more cleavage because we're on pay-per-view. How do you get better than this, eh, Tony? Lash, he assaults Paisley to start the match. The artist is rightfully annoyed and he immediately goes on the attack. He holds Lash down so Paisley can give him a perfectly justified boot in the ribs. Lash is able to take control by countering the artist's mounted corner punches before looking to score with his version of the Dancy Punch, but he's met with a super kick instead. That's what you get for gimmick infringement. Ironic, given Ikea's gimmick, but moving on. Ikea gets sent over the top rope to the floor and Lash follows him out with a plancha over the ropes. Back inside the ring, the artist regains control with a dragon screw, but Lash attempts a sunset flip and the artist is forced to perform some assault of his own to avoid getting rolled up. The HR department's going to have a late one tonight, eh? A little miscommunication leads to Lash being sent over the top rope where he gets introduced to the steel ring steps. An overhead belly to belly gets the artist a 2, but Lash is able to take his opponent to the corner and place him on the top rope. He looks for a Hurricane Rana, but Paisley holds on to her man and Lash crashes to the mat. Ikea then hits his diving middle rope DDT for the 3, and that's our opening match over. The artist wins the Cruiserweight title here at SuperBrawl. Not a great match, if I'm honest. It was very sloppy, and there were a number of points where the lads lost the run of themselves and had to resort to punches and kicks to cover up their mistakes. I would say Ikea's now past his green as shit newcomer phase, so there was really no excuse for this one. Backstage, we see Norman Smiley getting his ribs taped up, which will severely affect his wiggling capabilities both in and outside the ring. Complete Ted Brian Knobbs gets interviewed by Mean Gene and he spouts some bollocks about how he's been through a lot these past few months, but his training with Fit Finlay taught him to say no surrender. Wrong time of year for that, I would have thought, but that's what hardcore's all about, apparently. We then see a shot of a room that has a keep out sign on the door. Tony says no one knows who requested this room and no one knows who's inside of it. Probably the WCW booking committee keeping themselves hidden. I would certainly hide if I booked this show. Up next, Bam Bam Bigelow defends the hardcore title against Brian Knobhead. Bam Bam won the title due to some help from Knob's mentor Fit Finlay, and so Brian's out to regain the gold here tonight. Speaking of Finlay, he shows up to distract Bam Bam so Knobs can get the advantage. He drags Bigelow to the WCW.com area and the two brawl in a walkway beside the crowd before they head backstage. Knobs gets put through a table, Finlay hits Bigelow with his cast, and Bam Bam gets bopped with a bin. It's crazy to think hardcore matches can seem limited in regards to variety, but let me tell you something, brother. Nearly every WCW hardcore match plays out in the exact same way. They head back to the ring. Knob sets up a table in the corner, but as is the way in wrestling, the Tit ends up being the one to go through it. Bigelow delivers greetings from Asbury Park, but he decides to go up top instead of going for the cover. He gets knocked to the floor by Knob's cast, following a distraction from Finlay, and the former Nasty Boy is once again Hardcore Champion. An absolute nothing match. Let's move on. Slick Rick's bigging up himself, the total package, and Liz by saying Team Package rocks. I beg to differ, lad. Some thoroughly convincing event staff then tell each other that no one's to be let into either Sid or Scott Hall's dressing rooms, no matter who they are. Even the president isn't allowed in, but are we talking about the WCW president or the president of the United States? Either way, it's time to get funky, as 3 can come down to treat us to an absolute banger. But hang on just a minute, mister. Evan says that they aren't here to sing tonight, but instead they're going to kick some ass. I am devastated. Truly, truly devastated. Anyway, can't grieve forever. Here comes Norman Smiley as he's getting ready to take on these 3 pop icons in a 3-on-1 handicap match. Norman's still a bit banged up after getting put through a table by the wall on Thunder, but he's showing little effects of those injured ribs as he wipes out every member of 3 Count before sending Shannon flying over the top rope onto his bandmates. Eventually though, the numbers game catches up to Norman as expected and 3 Count take over. Norman gets a break when Shane misses a corkscrew senton that still looked fantastic to be fair. Evan breaks up an attempted big wiggle, both he and Shane have a little boogie together, so Norman decides to join in and the crowd love it. We didn't deserve Norman Smiley, man, we really didn't. Smiley locks in the Norman Conquest on Shannon, but it gets broke up and the lads lay in the boots to Norman's ribs. Evan then hits a twist and splash, Shane hits a frog splash, and Shannon locks in a Boston Crab, which forces the injured Norman Smiley to give it up. Yeah, I quite enjoyed this match for what it was. For sure, it was a bit silly, but that's what it was always going to be. It was entertaining, and the 3 young guns got to show off what they could do, so it's a thumbs up from me. Main event time as the Demon takes on the Wall. Yes, this is being billed as a main event. Due to a contractual stipulation with Kiss, the character of the Demon had to be involved in at least one pay-per-view main event, so this is it. Man, I would have been pissed if I were Kiss, but something tells me that watching SuperBrawl 2000 wasn't high on Gene Simmons' list of priorities. The Wall's music plays, but there's no sign of him, so our God of Thunder here has to strutter all the way to the top of the entranceway to find his opponent, because who wants to be lonely, eh? Last one, I promise. The Wall attacks from behind and the Demon gets bounced off the guardrails as he gets brought down to the ring. From here, the Demon gets absolutely wrecked with a gorilla press slam before getting choked in the corner, but he is able to connect with a middle rope clothesline. The crowd's silent for this one, and I mean silent. Demon's able to stay in control with a back elbow and a dropkick, but he gets stopped in his tracks with a stun gun from the Wall before getting stretched out across his knee. Demon heads up top, but he gets caught around the throat and he gets driven down to the canvas with a chokeslam. The Wall gets the win and the Demon gets squashed. Jesus Christ, this one was a rough watch, and any momentum the Demon may have had, no matter how small, has been brought to a screeching halt with this loss. Mean Gene's with the cat backstage, wondering where James Brown is. Miller said James was at Thunder a few days ago, but he wasn't shown on camera. Cat says the Godfather of Soul is here tonight. Gene doesn't believe him, so we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out. The whole thing was thrown together very late, and WCW hardly promoted Brown's upcoming appearance, another missed opportunity from World Championship Wrestling. Vince Russo may be out of here, but his spirit lives on as we have a leather jacket on a pole match between Tank Abbott and Big Al. This one's pretty infamous, but not for anything that happens during the bout itself. Al takes his belt off and he wants to tie the 2 men together, presumably to make it so the other one can't run away, but surely that would make climbing a pole a bit difficult. Fuck, who cares? They tie their hands together and they just swing and shout at each other for what feels like an eternity. Tank goes down after a forearm, Al goes for the jacket, but not before standing on Abbott's face. Yep, just stand right there, big man, it's totally safe. Tank gets pissed off, he wrecks Al with some punches before putting him over his shoulder and climbing the ropes to get the jacket. They then lose their balance and Al gets dropped onto the floor, and yeah, this is really something else. Tank grabs the jacket and he wins the match, but now we get to the part that everyone remembers. Tank stands over Al and, I shit you not, he pulls out a knife and he holds it to Al's throat while screaming, "I could fucking kill you." The camera quickly cuts away and Tony tries to cover it up by saying it was a pair of scissors to cut off Al's beard. Do keep in mind one very important fact here though, that being Al doesn't have a beard, he has a very closely shaven goatee. What can you say? I mean, really, what can you say about this? You also have to wonder why this randomer named Big Al was allowed to compete in a WCW pay-per-view, but I'm guessing Tank trusted him and there would be no hard feelings between the two if they landed a few stiff shots. Still doesn't make for a good match though. Dreadful, bottom of the barrel bullshit right here from WCW. Stevie Ray and Big Titties are backstage with Mean Gene. Stevie says Brother Booker has no idea what it means to watch someone's back, so Stevie had to go out and get some help. Is he referring to Big T here, or is he referring to someone else? Stevie then claims that Booker doesn't know how to treat anybody, and the person who used to watch Booker's back, well, he'll be watching this match from across the ring. After a promo package, Booker tells Gene that he's never crossed anyone that didn't deserve it and that tonight it's for all the marbles. The marbles he's referring to are the rights to the Harlem Heat name and the letter T. Yes, the letter T. The Harlem Heat 2000 lads are out first to that familiar theme music and pyro. Booker gets his Pop Goes the Weasel theme and no pyro. Steve distracts Booker from the apron and Big T goes on the attack with club and blows before delivering a clothesline and a body slam. Booker comes back with a back suplex and he follows up with a vertical suplex before connecting with his signature forearm. On the outside, Booker intercepts Stevie Ray and the new Harlem Heat have a meeting of the minds. Back inside the ring, Stevie grabs Booker's leg and Booker gets assaulted on the outside by his brother before getting tossed back inside the ropes. Booker is able to fight back though when he scores with an axe kick and a Harlem sidekick before putting the big man down once again with a bookend. Instead of going for the cover, he heads up top, not before taking out Stevie Ray with a kick, and Booker connects with a missile dropkick to Big T. He makes the cover, but at the count of 2, the lights go out and we hear the toll of the bell, which usually signals the arrival of midnight. The lights come back on and it's some fat lad standing on the apron. The crowd have no idea who this is, but he distracts Booker long enough for Big T to hit the Pearl River plunge for the pin and the win. So yeah, Booker no longer has his T, and Big 4x4, a former member of the No Limit Soldiers, is now part of Harlem Heat 2000. He'll now be known as Cassius. Another awful match here. Booker tried his best to get something out of Big T, but not even he could drag something serviceable out of this big lump. Backstage, Mean Gene interviews the Maestro in Symphony. Maestro says that he doesn't believe that James Brown is here tonight. Yeah, Miller promised fans that James would show up at SuperBrawl, so he proposes a wager to the cat. If Miller somehow produces the main man, Maestro will exclusively listen to whatever music Miller tells him to. But if James isn't here, then the cat will have to be Mr. Maestro's lackey. The stakes have never been higher, ladies and gents. The Harris boys have found someone with a set of keys to open up the mysterious door, but the poor lad can't perform under pressure and he's unable to get the door open. So Ron and Dawn just beat him up and the mystery remains unanswered. Finally, a match on this card to get excited about. It's the final match in the best of 3 series between Vampiro and Billy Kidman. A rivalry that revolved around respect is slowly turned into both men being at each other's throats following some miscommunication and errors in judgment when the pair were put together in some tag team matches. Both guys have a win apiece, so tonight we'll see who gets the bragging rights in the feud. After some back and forth, Vamp gains the early momentum with a tilt-a-whirl slam, making the most of his size and power advantage. Kidman finds himself in an electric chair position, but he's able to counter and he sends old Vampy Balls over the top rope with a Hurricane Rana. Kidman sends his opponent into the guardrail before the two head up top back inside the ring, leading to Vampiro hitting a top rope gut wrench suplex, which only gets a 2. All the while, Tony gets on Madden's case for referring to Vampiro as Vamp. Shut up, Tony, you joyless prick. Vamp, how do you like that, Tony? Stays in control with a series of kicks and a vertical suplex. He then goes for a powerbomb, but Kidman counters it of course, but Vampiro stays in control with a dropkick to the knees of young Billy Kidman. Tori then gets on the apron and Kidman gets knocked into her. He then turns his attention to his good lady, and yeah, who could blame him? But this leads to Billy getting clocked from behind. Vampiro then grabs a chair, but Tori's able to stop him from using it, and Vamp gets that chair dropkicked in his face. Kidman looks for a slingshot move, but it doesn't quite go to plan, so Vampiro just decides to connect with a suplex to cover it up. Billy's able to fight back with a BK bomb, but he gets put down once again, this time with a rocker dropper. Kidman responds with a Frankensteiner for a near fall, but Vampiro breaks the curse by powerbombing Kidman not once, not 3 times, but twice. Our match comes to an end in quite an abrupt manner when both men are once again on the ropes. Kidman scores with a reverse DDT off the top, and that's enough to put Vampiro down for the 3 count. This one was nothing special by any means, but compared to everything else we have seen, this was the highlight of the night so far. Nothing surprising really. Mean Gene's backstage with Dustin Rhodes and Terry Funk. The Funker says Ric Flair's messed around hundreds of people in this business, but no longer after tonight. His father was king of the deathmatch, and he will kick Flair's ass with Dustin by his side. Sid pops his head out of his private dressing room and he tells the security staff to bring Gene Okerlund to him right this instant. Prepare yourself, Gene. Big Sid looks like he's in no mood for any of your hard-hitting journalism.
Now that your daddy's back, David, you gotta stop smoking crack. He's gonna kick your ass, show you the door, lock your skinny ass in the figure 4. Say goodbye to your girl, goodbye to Crowbar. You'll always be a jobber and never a star. David, stop being a dick. You're gonna get smacked by Daddy Nature Boy Slick Rick.
Daphne, Crowbar and our boy David are having a whale of a time backstage as they arse about with a stretcher. The boys are taking on the Mamalukes next in a Sicilian stretcher match. Gene talks with the tag team champions before the bout. Vito says they're going to take care of the challengers once and for all. They make Vito, Disco and Johnny the Bull sick, which upsets Johnny greatly as he now can't eat his cheese sandwich. And as we all know, Johnny the Bull loves a good daily cheese sandwich. The rules of this match are simple, no pinfalls and no submissions. The only way to win is to put both your opponents on a stretcher and wheel them out of the arena. Disco, for some reason, has a trash can in a wheelchair which he brings down to ringside. The trash can must be disabled. The challengers attack the champions on the outside as Disco joins the commentary table, which I'm totally ecstatic about. Crowbar hits a Vader bomb off the guardrail, which looked pretty good. He outdoes himself with a splash over the ropes to Johnny, who was lying on a stretcher. Good stuff, Mr. Barr. David wheels the bull halfway up the ramp before getting stopped by Vito, and our boy takes a few right hands. Both of the challengers get taken out by a stretcher, but Daphne doesn't seem to mind too much. She's just happy to be out of the house. Into the ring we go, and the champions remain in control with some nice double team offense. Daphne then makes her presence known as she hits a Hurricane Rana on Johnny before spraying Disco in the eyes with mace. Now the challengers are in control with David showing off his superior brawling abilities on the outside while Crowbar hits a springboard moonsault on the inside. Unfortunately for Crowbar, his momentum gets cut off via a powerbomb through a table in the corner. Yeah, that'll do it alright. Disco still can't see and he wonders if it was his team that did something good or not. Poor David suffers a similar fate as his partner when he gets driven down to the mat with a double powerbomb from the tag team champions. Johnny the Bull shows some great athleticism by leaping to the top rope and dropping a twisting leg drop on Flair Jr. And the champions look like they have this one in the bag as David gets put on a stretcher. Just for good measure, the champions tape him to that stretcher. They know it's the only way they can restrain David's unrivaled fury, you see. David gets wheeled out of the arena, so it's now a 2-on-1 situation. Crowbar dives onto the champions as Daphne rings the bell, because why not, before she sets up a table. The numbers game catches up to Crowbar though as Johnny the Bull cracks him over the back with a lead pipe before laying him on the table. Vito flies off the top rope with a splash, crashing Crowbar through the wood. Crowbar gets taped to another stretcher and it looks academic from here, but the champions decide to grab Daphne and put her into that wheelchair that Disco brought down to the ring earlier on. Both she and Crowbar get wheeled away and that's it. The Mamalukes retain their tag team titles. You know what? I actually enjoyed this one. There was plenty of action, a lot of goofiness from Daphne and Disco's various shenanigans, and the right team won in my opinion. Again, not a classic, but nowhere near the worst thing on this show. Gene arrives at Sid's locker room and the big man says he wants everyone to know something. Surprises or no surprises, both Jarrett and Hall will find out why Sid is the world champion. He earned that title and he belongs here in WCW, and neither Jarrett's scheming, Hall's friends in high places, or whoever's behind the mystery door will prevent the master and ruler of the world walking out of the Cow Palace as world champion. You'd have thought Sid needed to tell Gene something really urgently by the way he was getting on earlier, but it's a typical Sid promo right here. The Cat makes his way down to the ring, and keep in mind, Mr. Miller promised to deliver James Brown to the WCW audience here tonight. Cat berates the fans, saying that just a week ago they were calling him a liar, but now they want to kiss up to him, seeing as Mr. Dynamite himself is in the building. The fans wanted to see the Cat make a fool of himself, but that's just not going to happen. We'll just see about that, lad. So the Cat introduces his special guest, otherwise known as We Have James Brown at Home. Yeah, this boy comes out dressed as the Godfather of Soul, and of course no one's buying it. Imagine my astonishment. You know, this guy's name could very well be James Brown, so technically the Cat would have delivered on his promise. The Maestro then comes down to the ring with a facial expression I've never seen any other human being make before, and he claims that he won the little wager from earlier on. Right enough, I don't think the Cat ever agreed to it, but whatever. He tells Cat to go get the Stroh's bags, put them in the limo, and get to strolling with Beethoven. Suddenly, we cut to the entranceway, and my god, there he is. James Brown is at SuperBrawl. Now, according to Kevin Sullivan, Brown had committed to WCW a few times in the past, but had always flaked out, and this is why the company never advertised Brown to appear at the event. They were unsure if he would actually turn up. As a make good, Brown appeared at this show for free. Whether this is true or not, I have no idea. Bobby Heenan ripped WCW apart in his book for spending money on an essentially unadvertised huge celebrity appearance, so yeah, it's up for debate. Whatever the case, it all comes back to WCW's track record of incompetence, and that's what we tend to fall back on. They may well could just not have bothered to promote James despite booking him. Either way, the hardest working man in show business is in the Cow Palace, and both he and the Cat dance together. He even gifts Miller one of his robes. It's still a surreal sight to see James Brown in a WCW ring in the year 2000, and even though I don't know who this segment was for, everyone involved seemed to have a good time. So that's something, I guess. Scott Hall cuts a promo with Mean Gene Okerlund, saying that when he broke into wrestling, it didn't matter if you were friends with the higher-ups, it only mattered if you could go. Hall knows he can go, and Scott's opponents are going to find that out later on tonight when he takes the WCW World Heavyweight title. Up next, it's Nature Boy Ric Flair versus Terry Funk in a death match. The match I've been looking forward to the most on this pay-per-view, but I'm going into it with a lot of cautious optimism. Before the match, Slick Rick says that he's lived it, he's bled it, and he's sweated it. But most importantly, he survived it. He owns San Francisco, he owns Terry Funk, he is Ric Flair. Rick doesn't like death matches, he doesn't like that dirty stuff, I beg to differ. But he is the dirtiest player in the game for a reason, and tomorrow morning, Terry's going to have to come to terms with the fact that Ric Flair kicked his ass here at SuperBrawl. So the rules for a Texas death match, if you're unsure: no disqualification, no countouts, pinfalls or submissions don't end the match. If you do score a 3 count, or if you make your opponent submit, this is going to start a 10 count from the referee. If your opponent's unable to answer that 10 count, then the match is over. These two have had some incredible battles in the past, most notably their war at Clash of the Champions in 1989. So let's see how this one stacks up. Remember, cautious optimism. A cagey start from both guys sees neither man get an advantage as they exchange chops and left hands in the corner. Flair rolls to the outside to take a breather, but Funk brings him back in with a suplex as Rick begs off. Funk applies the spinning toe hold, but Flair's able to fight his way out before laying in a few more chops in the corner. Both men head to the outside and Flair gets suplexed on the floor while Terry gets sent into the guardrail. Another suplex on the floor from Funk leads to him getting the first pinfall of the bout, but the referee only makes it to 5 before Flair's back on his feet. The Funker ends up on the floor after taking a low blow, and Flair then goes to work on the knees with a plastic chair before taking the fight back to the ring. Flair stays focused on the knee with a chop block before locking in the figure 4. Funk quickly submits and the referee begins his count. Funk gets back to his feet, but he's put right back down with another chop block. Flair heads up top, predictable results ensue, and he then gets launched into the corner and over the top to the floor. The Dirty Funker connects with a piledriver on the floor before exposing the concrete underneath the mats. He then hits a second piledriver, this time on the concrete, and this gets another 3 count. As Flair pulls himself to his feet, Funk grabs a table and he sets it up in the ring. Flair, Funk, and tables don't mix too well, guys. Terry grabs a microphone and he asks Flair if he wants to quit before striking him in the head with it. Both men end up on the table and Funk scores with a third piledriver, this time through the wood. Funk makes the cover, but he pulls Flair up before the 3. He then grabs a second table and once again he sets it up inside the ring. Terry lays Rick on the table and he heads upstairs for a moonsault, but Flair wakes up and he sends the Funker crashing through the wood. Flair gets a pin and the referee begins counting, but he's seemingly counting both men out. Anyway, Flair makes it to his feet first while Terry's unable to answer. Ric Flair wins the deathmatch at SuperBrawl 2000. What a flat finish to what was a thoroughly dull and uneventful bout. Both of these men are legends and absolutely could go, but in the year 2000 on a WCW pay-per-view, I really should have known this was going to happen. It's a sad indictment when David Flair's hardcore match was more entertaining than a match involving Ric Flair and Terry Funk. That's where we are now, ladies and gents. This is the point we've reached. We once again see the mystery door. The commentators confirm it wasn't James Brown in there, so we still don't know who could be lurking behind it. Mean Gene's earning his paycheck tonight as he's backstage with Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart. Both Hogan and Hart have been victims of Lex Luger's spree of breaking arms, but Hogan says this is just the break he's been waiting for. Did you see what he did there, brothers? Hogan says that he's going to make sure that the fans in the upper level hear it when he breaks Luger's arm, and if Liz gets in his way, he'll break her body in half. Jesus, calm down, lad. Hogan looks to get his revenge here tonight against the Total Package in our semi-main event. So here we go, it should be a doozy. Michael Buffer's here to introduce the participants. Money well spent as always. Package comes to the ring first with his signature chair and Sting's baseball bat along with Miss Elizabeth. As much as a loathsome arsehole he can be sometimes, the crowd make the most noise they've made all evening for the arrival of Hogan. He slides into the ring, but Luger's there to lay the boots in. Lex continues to lay in right hands and he drops Hogan with a clothesline, but he misses the follow-up elbow. This allows Hulk to gain control, and Hogan loves gaining control. Hogan delivers a clothesline of his own before choking Luger out on the mat. The Hulkster then sends Luger to the outside and the Package gets choked out with Hulk's shirt before taking a chair shot across the back. Ref, that's a DQ, no? Madden says Hogan's acted more like Hollywood than Hulk as he maintains control back inside the ropes, but a back elbow from Luger puts the Total Package back in the driver's seat. Luger lays more boots in before both guys end up back on the outside. Hogan gets sent into the guardrail before the action, and I use that term very loosely, heads back inside again. More boots from Luger, but Hogan uses his cast to counter a right hand. He rams Luger's head into the top turnbuckle and into his cast before dropping Luger with a big punch. Hulk looks to hit the ropes, but Liz catches him with the bat from the outside and Hogan heads out. This distraction allows Luger to attack from behind, but he ends up getting sent into the guardrail himself. Jimmy Hart then comes out to take the bat away from Liz while Luger calls for the torture rack back in the ring. Hogan says balls to that though as he begins to Hulk up, brother. He hits the big boot, but instead of going for the leg drop, he calls for the weight belt. Luger gets a low blow in, but Jimmy Hart clocks Lex with his cast from the outside. This allows Hogan to connect with the leg drop for the win, and there you go, Hogan wins again. After the match, Hogan goes after Luger with the weight belt, but Ric Flair comes out to back up Luger and he attacks Hogan. Team Package batter Hogan and Jimmy, but here comes Sting to make the save. Oh yeah, the Stinger returns in the most underwhelming way possible. He chases Team Package off and he stands side by side with Hogan in the ring. And I hate being negative, especially when it seems like I'm just picking on WCW at this point, but Christ, they aren't doing themselves any favours, are they? It's another nothing match that admittedly had a decent build-up, but the payoffs just aren't, well, they're just not paying off. I'm happy to see Sting back, but the way he was brought back here was truly uninspired, even for WCW standards. His return's been teased for ages, and, well, it was just underwhelming. We see the participants for our main event match emerge from their dressing rooms. It's time for the triple threat match for the WCW World title. Big Sid Vicious defending the belt against Scott Hall and US champion Jeff Jarrett. This would also serve as Scott's final match in WCW. Before we get to the ring introductions, we see that the mystery door is now open, but Tony tells us it wasn't Sting who was in there. How does Tony know all this? Who's feeding him this information? Double J and Scott Hall make their entrances, and they don't even wait for the world champion to arrive before they start going at it. Hall hits the fall-away slam before taking care of the Harris brothers, and he sends Jeff over the top rope as Sid makes his way down to the ring. Hall immediately goes for Sid, and he and Jarrett lay in the right hands to the champ in the corner. Sid turns it around though, and he takes everyone out, including the Harris brothers, who are proven to be as effective as usual here tonight. The fans do seem to be behind Sid as all three lads square up to each other. The Harris brothers finally do something worthwhile as Jarrett takes over on Hall, putting him down with a swinging neckbreaker. He tries a sleeper, but Scott locks in one of his own. Jarrett quickly escapes and the two throw right hands. But referee Billy Silverman gets caught in the line of fire and he gets taken out. A referee bump in a triple threat match, because of course. Sid takes out both challengers with a double clothesline before putting Hall and Jarrett down with a double chokeslam. He makes the cover and a second referee, Nick Patrick, comes down to make the count, but both men kick out. Jarrett clobbers Sid with the title belt, but it only gets him a 2. Jeff doesn't take too kindly to Patrick not counting to 3, so he gets taken out with a stroke. Harris brothers buffoonery leads to Jarrett getting hit with a chair as a third referee comes down. Hall goes for the outsider's edge, but it gets countered and Jarrett takes out Charles Robinson before attacking Mickey J. He then signals to the back, and here comes referee number 5, Slick Johnson. A man who's been in Jarrett's pocket these past few weeks, and a man the WCW committee didn't want refereeing this match, but I guess they have no choice. So fuck you, Terry Taylor. As Slick gets in the ring, Hall connects with the edge. Johnson makes the count, but he pulls up a 4-3 while feigning an injured shoulder. Sid comes back momentarily, but he gets sent to the outside once again. So Jarrett grabs a guitar and Hall gets whacked. We then cut to the entranceway to see Roddy Piper coming down to the ring in a referee shirt. We haven't seen Piper since the Nitro after Starrcade, but he's here at SuperBrawl. So this must have been who was behind the mystery door. He stops Johnson, giving the match to Jeff before taking him out. Jeff gets in the hot rod's face, but he gets poked in the eyes, and this leads to Sid delivering a chokeslam to the chosen one. The big man picks up Hall for a powerbomb. Sid Vicious retains the WCW Championship here in San Francisco, and my god, this was an absolute clusterfuck of a main event. This match went less than 10 minutes, and we had 6 referees, 5 of which got taken out. Roddy Piper returning for the 385th time, and no crowd response throughout the entirety of the bout. Anyway, Sid retains his championship, and SuperBrawl goes off the air with the big man celebrating with his world belt. This one was a slog to get through. Like I said, I hate being negative about WCW at this stage of their run. It feels like I'm just picking on them because it's the easy thing to do and it's what everyone would do. But I can't lie either, and I can't recommend a bad show. When the best things on your pay-per-view are a comedy match involving a faction of boy band wannabes and a stretcher match that has David Flair in it, then you're in some serious trouble. The company's in a real sorry state at the minute, from the action in the ring, to Mark Madden on commentary, to the general booking and presentation of the show. It's clear the writing was on the wall, even at this stage in the game. Anyway, we'll check out the SuperBrawl fallout on the next edition of Reliving the War. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, please take care.